So hey guys, today we are gonna check out what all are the major updates in Mocha latest version, that is Mocha 2021. Here I have the latest version of Mocha Pro 2021. They introduced Power Mesh this time. So let's check Power Mesh in different scenarios and let's see how compatible and efficient the new tool is. I'm gonna draw a spline over this blue sweater of this grandma. Let's draw a spline over here. I'm drawing it much precisely to compare the results. Okay, let's end the shape, like let's close the shape, let's smooth out. Yep, I'll adjust this area a bit. Now I have a spline here, a perfectly drawn spline over this blue sweater. And now let's check out the properties of Power Mesh and all this tracking. Yep, we have the tracking properties here. We can see a lot of options here. We can see the option still perspective, and there is one option like mesh, so it will generate a mesh automatically. Mesh is nothing like some strange lines with a lot of vertices. Let's compare this with the 3D wireframe model in a 3D workspace. And yeah, we have a lot other properties also. For mesh also we have mesh generation and mesh tracking. So let's see what mesh generation properties does one by one. And we have generation mode here, like we have automatic, and that is a default one, and we have the uniform. So just click on this generate mesh. Yep, so what uniform does is like it is uniformly arranged. All the vertices are uniformly arranged and all the segments are uniformly similar. So if you increase the size, you can see the vertices, the distance between vertices increases, and if you keep it like 200, the distance still increases, and the recommended mesh size is 25 to 35. And we have yet another options like vertices on spline. So I will show you what vertices on spline does. So if we check on that option, you can see the mesh overlaps the spline, and you can see if we uncheck, it is inside the spline. So also we have the adaptive contrast. So if you are using a low contrast footage, make use of adaptive contrast. So go into automatic and just generate a mesh. So here we have the default generated mesh. Now click on adaptive and generate a mesh. You can see a much detailed mesh here, right? And this helps in tracking. Yep, so we have the clear mesh option also. We can clear the mesh and we can generate also. So let's see some other properties of tracking. So for mesh tracking, we have smoothness option here. Okay, so we have the smoothness option here. We have also the warp spline. Always make sure you're clicking on or checking on the warp spline because it helps in tracking. And also you can click on this auto smoothness, so Mocha decides the value of that. Also we can give the value manually. It is recommended to give a value of 25 to 35. Now all these properties are ready, and now let's see some options. Like we have some options here, like if you can hide the overlay for mesh and points, and also we can turn off the mesh completely. And also if you want to select the points or vertices inside this mesh, it's not possible right now. So for that, what we have to do is like we have to click on this option, edit the track mesh. Okay, and now you can select the vertices and adjust that. Okay, so click on that and you can adjust the vertices now manually. So if you guys are good in modeling, it is easy for you to adjust these vertices and create a good looking mesh that can track and give us good results. And I'm gonna select this point, click on delete to delete that point, Control Z. Now click on this option. So what it does is like if I want to add new points or new vertices, I can click on this line and create a new vertex, and I can adjust that like this. I can adjust all these points. Okay, here we have some problems. I'll add a point here. Okay, so I'll keep this point here. yeah, we can adjust the vertices as we like, and we can create a mesh that is so good Okay, now I have completely selected this and moved. Okay, we can move the points like this also, and yeah, I'm selecting all these points. You can edit like this. You can move the points by using lasso selection also. Okay, I'm selecting all these points. Okay, oops. Okay, I have selected this one. Now let's take the lasso selection and let's drag and select some points. So you can use both the lasso selection and marquee selection for selecting the points, and you can adjust it accordingly. Okay, now that is done. Now all the properties I have introduced. Now let's track and see how the result comes. This is my mesh and I have made sure mesh is on. Let's track. Okay, the tracking is almost done. Okay, now the tracking is almost done. Now let's play and see. Yep, let's check the spline. It's looking good, right? So Power Mesh generated a good tracking result here. Okay, yep, it's looking good. So now I'll just duplicate this spline, and now let's do the basic default tracking inside Mocha. Okay, so the green spline is the default tracking one. Now let's turn off the mesh and keep it on perspective, and now let's track and see how the result comes. Yep, all these things are default, and now let's track. Yep, so now we can compare the results of both Power Mesh tracking and the default perspective tracking. You can see a lot of difference in the edges. Some edges are almost similar, but some edges are completely different. You can see the difference between Power Mesh and the normal tracking there. A red one is the Power Mesh. It's sticking much closer to the input, and so overall, like, we can see this edge. Power Mesh gives absolutely brilliant result. Yep. Okay, so now in this input we have received a good result. Now let's compare this input. Okay, so in this input we can see a finger here. I'm gonna do a roto for this finger. Okay, let's draw a spline for this finger. I'm just drawing it like accurately, because we can see the differences between both default tracking and Power Mesh. So this is my spline, and I'm gonna turn on the mesh and perspective, and also you can click on this adaptive contrast. Let's generate a mesh. Yeah, it's good, right? So also give the smoothness as 35, which is recommended. You can check uniform, but I don't want that. I will keep it as automatic. Before that, I will edit. If I need to be edited, I can use that option to edit. I'm just leaving it like that and tracking. Oops. Okay, I can't see that much good result here. Okay, here if you play and check, we didn't got that much good result here. With Power Mesh, we can see the spline is not that much accurate. So let's duplicate this and let's compare with the default track, and let's see who wins here. Okay, this is the default one. I'll just keep it here, and I'm gonna track it with the default settings. Turn off the mesh. Let's track. All the settings are there, and let's track. Okay, oops, so this is that bad. So Power Mesh is way far good than the normal track. Let's compare here. The green one is the default and the red one is Power Mesh. So I'm damn sure here Power Mesh wins. So the next example is this one, and let's see who wins here. I'm gonna draw a spline over this area. Okay, so I have drawn a shape here. Let's adjust the subsurface a bit. So I'm going to generate a mesh. Mesh is generated. That's too bad, right? So click on uniform and generate a mesh. Now this is way far better. So I'll keep a mesh size of 10. That is looking good. So vertices on spline, let it be. So yep, and click on this auto smoothness this time. Let's see how auto smoothness helps. So I'll just keep this off this time. So let's see how the track is coming. Yep, the tracking is good. Now let's compare with the default tracking. Duplicate that spline. Here we have that spline here in the first frame. I'll change the color a bit. Okay, turn off the mesh and let's track. Now let's compare the both results. The green is the default and red is the power mesh. Here also I can see power mesh is sticking to the exact location or exact area where we initially drawn the spline. You can see the green one slides a lot. So yeah, here also we can see the green spline is sliding a lot. So here too power mesh gave us good result. Okay, this area you can compare. Yeah, this also you can see the edges are much more accurate here. Okay, now let's compare yet another input. Here I'm gonna do roto for this hand and see how the tracking is coming in power mesh and the default settings. Okay, so drawing a spline over here. Yep. Okay, I'm just drawing it in a detailed way. Okay, now adjusting a bit. Now generating a mesh from this. Yep, that looks terrible. So I'll keep the mesh size as 35 and yep, this looks decent. Automatic. Yep, so this looks a little decent. So auto smoothness works here. Let's keep on these options and let's track and see. Oops. Okay, some error came. Now I will change the settings a bit and let's track again. So every time I tried altering the properties, I got this error. I don't know why. So I'm trying to draw a shape outside and let's see how the results comes. Okay, so generate a mesh and keeping automatic and all these options as and mesh size as 5. Yep, so I altered these properties a lot. Now let's track and see. Oops, turn on the mesh. Okay, track. So this time I'm not getting the accurate result now also. it is not that much good. This time also my result is not that much good. Okay, now I'm trying the default way of tracking. Here I have the spline. Let's track. Okay, this looks good, I guess. So default won here. So power mesh didn't work. Here the default way of tracking worked. Okay, I'm gonna try this area, drawing a shape here. Okay, let's adjust a bit this side. Okay, now generate a mesh here. Generate a mesh and let's keep the vertices as 35. So let's keep us uniform. For clothes and all these things, uniform works better, so keep it as 15. Yep. So this is my mesh. Now let's keep the auto smoothness and let's track. So here we can see a lot of distortion is happening, maybe because of the hand, but I'm not getting a good result from the power mesh. So I'm drawing a shape here. Let's see. Okay, generating mesh over here. This works. Track. Make sure perspective is on this time. Okay, so let's compare and see how the result came. Okay, this looks better. Now let's insert a clip over there. Not this one. I'll keep a logo of Mocha there. Let's adjust that according to the perspective. Okay, I'll just turn off all this subsurface also, and let's play and see how it is coming. Okay, yeah, that's better, but I don't think that is perfectly tracked. Okay, so I'm not happy with this shot. I think default way of tracking worked better than power mesh in this shot, so I have to try more examples to get into a conclusion. So here I'm happy with the default tracking. Okay, you can export this shape or this tracking data like this. You can export the tracking data into any softwares. You can export the shape also into Silhouette, Nuke, and some other softwares also are there. So, and also we can do like export render shapes. We can render the mats also. So in this input I'm gonna show you how to export the power mesh as a alembic mesh. So drawing a spline here, I'll adjust bit. So I have drawn a spline here and I'm clicking on this mesh option. Perspective is on, and generate a mesh. This looks decent. Generate a mesh like this. So I'll just keep everything on and just this. So this looks good. So yep, everything is done. Now I'll adjust this a bit. Okay, auto smoothness. Okay, everything is set. Now let's track. So making sure perspective is on. Yep, now the tracking is done. The result looks good. You can see all those minute movement. Okay, so I guess this looks good. So we are gonna export this tracking data as alembic and gonna import that into Nuke. So if you want to adjust that a bit, you can adjust that here. You want to adjust some like all these vertices can be adjusted before exporting. Okay, all done. Now I'm going to export the track as here we have. Okay, where is it? Okay, yep, we have alembic mask data, mesh data. I'm gonna save that. Okay, here we have the keyframe. I'm gonna delete it. Come back to the first frame. Okay, a keyframe was added while we were editing that vertices. You can edit the reference frame also here, like which is the reference frame for your camera. Now I have saved that and I'm gonna import that alembic data into Nuke using a read geo. Click on here. I'm gonna import the Mocha camera as well as the layer 2, that is the alembic file. So I have read geo and I have a camera, and now I'm taking a scanline render. Now let's connect the camera into camera and object scene into read geo, and let's arrange this bit. Okay, now we have connected the merge with the scanline render. Now I'm gonna take a color wheel. Okay, I'm connecting this image into this. Let's view over here. Okay, I'm gonna set the project settings as yep. Now you can see the mesh is generated and we can project anything into this mesh, and that works well as a track. So we can do Roto paint task with this alembic mesh. We can project our paint strokes into this alembic mesh. So yep, now I have I'm just doing it roughly. It's weird, I know. So let's take a frame mold. Let's think this is the clean plate for us, and let's take a copy pre-mult. Let's take a Roto and do a pre-mult for this area. Okay, the Roto is done. Okay, now I pre-multed and I've connected that into read geo. Let's see how the result comes. Okay, so what's happening? Okay, so I'll just keep the first frame as 150, and now it's all done. Now let's play and see how the result came. That looks amazing, right? Okay, the edges are weird. We can just blur it as of now, or we can keep like multiple clean plates and do the prep easily. That looks nice. You can see all those distortion happening. Yeah, the track looks good. So power mesh helps in this kind of work. Yeah, you can see all those minute movement in the CP as well. So this is amazing. So also there are two major updates: Adjust Track 2.0, Python window and support. We will make tutorial on that soon.